The massive Alliance exploration vessel Starseeker drifted through the darkness of deep space, its sleek purple hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain Smith stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays floating before him. The ship's sensors had detected something unusual in this empty sector, far from any known civilization. "Report," he commanded, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard Alliance speech. "Sir, we found a derelict vessel," responded First Officer Davis, her tentacles dancing over the control panel. It appears to be of human origin." Lieutenant James Walker, the only human aboard the Starseeker, looked up from his communication station. After 3 years serving as the Alliance's liaison officer, he had grown used to being the only human among the crew of various alien species. But the mention of a human vessel this far out caught his attention. Bringing it up on the main display, Davis announced. The hologram shifted, revealing a massive dark shape floating against the star-filled backdrop. The ship was angular, built with straight lines and sharp edges that contrasted sharply with the flowing organic designs of Alliance vessels. Its hull was scarred and pitted, telling tales of ancient battles, but its structure remained intact. Captain Smith's inner eyelids flickered in amusement. "How primitive. Look at those armor plates, solid metal. And those weapon mounts. They still used physical projectiles." His laughter, a series of clicking sounds, echoed across the bridge. Other crew members joined in, their various forms of amusement creating an odd symphony. Walker stood up and moved closer to the display. His eyes narrowed as he studied the vessel's profile. "Sir, I recognize those markings. That's the Thunder's Echo, a Titan-class warship from humanity's first interstellar war. She was thought to be lost with all hands during the Battle of Proxima." "The first interstellar war?" Davis asked, her tentacles curling in curiosity. "That was over 200 years ago, wasn't it?" "Yes," Walker replied, his voice filled with quiet reverence. "The Thunder's Echo was one of our most advanced ships at the time. She fought in 12 major battles before disappearing." Captain Smith waved one of his upper limbs dismissively. "Advanced for its time, perhaps. But look at it now. A relic of a bygone era. Still, it would make an excellent addition to the Alliance Historical Museum." He turned to his crew. "Prepare for salvage operations. Lieutenant Walker, since this is your species' history, you may join the initial survey team." The salvage operation began within the hour. Walker found himself aboard a shuttle approaching the massive warship. Up close, the Thunder's Echo was even more impressive. Despite its age, the hull bore no signs of rust or decay. The ship's name was still visible, painted in bold letters along its side, along with its registry number and the flag of the United Earth Forces. As their shuttle entered the main hangar bay, Walker noticed something odd. The interior was pristine, almost as if the ship had been preserved. Emergency lights still functioned, casting a dim red glow throughout the vast space. "This is impossible," muttered Chief Engineer Miller, his antennae twitching as he took readings. "We're detecting power signatures. Minimal, but present. After 2 centuries." Walker touched the deck plates as they disembarked. The metal was cool, but not the freezing temperature he expected in a derelict vessel. His hand traced the worn UEF insignia on the wall, and for a moment, he thought he felt a subtle vibration. "The ship's nuclear cores should have gone cold decades ago," Miller continued, moving his scanner across the walls. "Yet there's definitely something still active in there." "Let's not get excited about a few emergency batteries." Captain Smith's voice crackled over their comms. "Complete your survey and mark it for towing. The museum's restoration team can deal with the technical details." As the survey team moved deeper into the ship, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The Thunder's Echo might have been classified as a relic by the Alliance, but something about it felt very much alive. In the dim red lighting, shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and every now and then, he could swear he heard the faint hum of machinery coming from deep within the vessel's heart. What the Alliance saw as an outdated piece of human history, Walker recognized as something far more significant. They were walking through a legend, and legends, he knew, often held dangerous secrets. The engineering team from Starseeker worked through their standard shift rotation, attempting to understand the Thunder's echo systems. Chief Engineer Miller's frustration grew with each passing hour as his team failed to make sense of the human warship's engine room. "This makes no sense," Miller chittered, his antennae twitching rapidly. "According to our scans, this should be a simple atomic fission drive. But these readings..." He waved a data pad at Walker, who stood nearby watching the Alliance engineers work. Walker stepped closer, examining the ancient control panels that still glowed with a faint blue light. "That's because it's not a fission drive," he explained. "This is one of the first quantum-fold drives humanity ever built." The Alliance engineers stopped their work, turning to stare at him. Miller's compound eyes reflected the dim emergency lighting as he processed this information. Impossible. Quantum-fold technology wasn't developed until 50 years ago by the Centaurian Science Academy. "That's what the Alliance believes," Walker said quietly, running his hand along the drive's housing. "Humanity developed it differently. While your scientists worked with artificial quantum fields, we found a way to fold space using natural quantum points." He pointed to what the aliens had assumed was a simple reactor core. "This entire chamber is designed to detect and harness existing quantum anomalies." Captain Smith's voice crackled over the comm system. "Don't be ridiculous, Lieutenant. If humans had developed such technology centuries ago, why isn't it in use now?" Before Walker could answer, a low hum began to emanate from deep within the ship. The sound grew steadily, resonating through the deck plates. Warning lights, dormant for 200 years, suddenly flickered to life. "What did you do?" Miller demanded, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated clicks and whistles. "Nothing," Walker replied, moving quickly to a nearby console. "But you've been probing the systems for hours without following proper shutdown protocols. These old ships had multiple redundancy systems, and..." He stopped as the screen before him lit up with scrolling data. "We need to stop all scanning operations now." Captain Smith's dismissive laugh echoed through the comm. "Lieutenant, I know this is your species' old technology, but there's no need for concern. Miller, continue your work. We need to understand this vessel's systems before we can safely tow it." The humming grew louder. Walker's fingers flew across the ancient keyboard, trying to access the ship's core systems. "Captain, please. These ships were built during a war. They have automated defense protocols that we don't fully understand." "Defense protocols?" Miller scoffed, though his antennae had flattened against his head in anxiety. "From a 200-year-old computer system. Our technology is far superior to..." A sudden power surge cut through the ship. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off sections of the vessel. The blue glow from the engine core intensified, and new displays began activating throughout the chamber. Walker recognized the startup sequence. "Everyone out now," he shouted, already moving toward the exit. "The quantum fold drive is initiating its startup sequence." "Don't be absurd," Miller began, but another surge of power made him jump. "Our scanners show minimal power readings. There's no way this old system could." The deck plates vibrated as ancient machinery roared to life. What the Alliance had dismissed as primitive backup systems revealed themselves to be merely the surface layer of the ship's true capabilities. Deep within the vessel's core, processes that had lain dormant for centuries began to awaken. "Captain," Walker called over the comm, his voice urgent but controlled. "I strongly recommend we withdraw all personnel from Thunder's Echo immediately. These systems weren't designed to be accessed without proper authorization. They're reading our attempts as hostile actions." Through the growing chaos, Walker caught glimpses of data flashing across the screens. The ship wasn't just defending itself. It was gathering information about the Alliance vessel, analyzing their technology, adapting its systems, What the Alliance saw as simple defense protocols was actually an advanced combat AI beginning to wake up. As emergency klaxons began to sound throughout the ancient warship, Walker realized that the Alliance's arrogance might have awakened something they weren't prepared to handle. The Thunder's echo was living up to its name, and soon its thunder would be heard again. Walker stood alone in what had once been the primary command center of Thunder's echo. The Alliance survey team had withdrawn under Captain Smith's reluctant orders, leaving him to attempt to stabilize the ship's awakening systems. The ancient bridge hummed with growing energy, screens flickering to life one by one. "This is Lieutenant James Walker, United Earth Forces liaison to the Galactic Alliance." He spoke clearly into the empty air, requesting communication with ship's command systems. For a moment, only the hum of machinery answered him. Then, a soft blue light filled the bridge, and a calm voice emerged from hidden speakers. "Human biosignature detected. Voice pattern analysis complete. Military credentials acknowledged." The voice was neither male nor female, but carried a note of authority. "I am HFY Combat Intelligence of UEF Thunder's Echo. State your authorization level, Lieutenant." Walker's heart raced. The ship's eye was still functional after 2 centuries. Level 3 standard authorization. Emergency protocol override request. Holographic displays shimmered into existence around him, showing ship status, power levels, and tactical readouts. Request acknowledged. "Be advised, Lieutenant Walker, this vessel initiated emergency preservation protocols following critical damage during the Battle of Proxima. Current status: recovering from dormant state." On the main screen, data began scrolling. The ship's last battle log. Walker read with growing amazement as the story unfolded. Thunder's Echo hadn't been destroyed as history recorded. After taking heavy damage, its AI had initiated an emergency protocol, shutting down all non-essential systems and placing the ship in a form of stasis. "AEGS," Walker said, "the war ended 200 years ago. Earth is now part of the Galactic Alliance." "Processing historical data update," AEGS replied. "However, Lieutenant, I must report that the Alliance vessel currently alongside is attempting to access restricted military systems without authorization. Their scanning methods match known hostile infiltration patterns." Through the bridge windows, Walker could see the Star Seeker floating nearby. Captain Smith's voice crackled over his comm unit. "Lieutenant, our sensors are detecting massive power buildups from that wreck. What exactly are you doing in there?" "Sir, I'm communicating with the ship's eye. It's fully functional and operating under original military protocols. Your scanning attempts are being interpreted as hostile actions." A burst of clicking laughter came through the comm. "An active AI. From that era. Lieutenant, even your most advanced modern AIs can barely match our basic computer systems." As if in response to the captain's dismissal, every light on Thunder's Echo blazed to full power. The ship's external floodlights illuminated its battle-scarred hull, making it look less like a derelict and more like a awakening giant. "AEGIS has been gathering data on your ship since you began your scans," Walker explained. "It's not just a simple computer system. It's a learning combat AI designed to adapt to any situation." To demonstrate his point, AEGIS displayed a complete technical readout of the Star Seeker, including details about its defensive and offensive capabilities that even Walker hadn't known. The AI had analyzed and cataloged every piece of technology the Alliance ship possessed. "Their defensive configurations are notable," AEGIS commented, "but contain several tactical vulnerabilities. Would you like a detailed analysis, Lieutenant?" Walker could almost hear the shock in Miller's voice as the engineer spoke over the comm. "Impossible. It's reading through our most advanced shielding like it isn't even there." "As I tried to explain," Walker said, settling into the captain's chair as more systems came online around him. "Humanity developed along different technological lines than the Alliance. What you see as primitive is simply different." The bridge hummed with power as AEGIS continued its reactivation sequence. Through the ship's sensors, Walker could see the Star Seeker's crew scrambling to understand what was happening. They had expected to find a museum piece, a relic of history. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one whose capabilities they had gravely underestimated. Lieutenant Walker, AEG is announced. All primary systems are now at 40% capacity and rising. Shall we show our Alliance friends what a primitive human warship can really do? Before Walker could respond, the ship's proximity alerts suddenly blared to life. Multiple unknown vessels had just appeared at the edge of the system, and they were closing fast. The Star Seeker's alarms blared as 5 sleek, black ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. Their designs were unfamiliar to the Alliance database, their hulls absorbing sensor scans like black holes. "Battle stations," Captain Smith ordered, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. "All hands to combat positions. Raise shields and charge weapons." On Thunder's Echo's bridge, Walker watched through AEG's superior sensors as the unknown vessels approached. The AI's analysis appeared on nearby screens, showing details the Alliance ship couldn't detect. "Lieutenant," AEG is announced, "those ships match patterns from our war archives. They're using modified stealth technology from the First Interstellar War." Walker leaned forward in his seat. "Raiders using old human tech." "Correct. Their ships are hybrid designs, combining stolen human stealth systems with modern weapons." The raiders didn't waste time with warnings or demands. Green energy beams lanced out from their ships, striking the Star Seeker's shields. The Alliance vessel's barrier flared bright purple that held firm. "Return fire," Smith commanded. The Star Seeker's advanced plasma cannons fired, sending brilliant blue bolts toward the nearest raider ship. But instead of impacting, the shots seemed to bend around the black hull, dissipating harmlessly into space. "Impossible." Miller's voice crackled over the comm. "Our weapons aren't having any effect." Walker watched as the raiders pressed their attack. Their next volley struck harder, making the Star Seeker's shields flicker dangerously. He recognized their strategy. It was an old human military tactic, using phase-shifted weapons to weaken enemy shields gradually. AEG is, "Those raiders are using corrupted versions of Thunder's Echo's original weapon systems, aren't they?" "Affirmative," the eye replied. "Their technology is crude but effective. The Alliance vessel's defenses are not designed to counter these attack patterns." Another hit rocked the Star Seeker. Captain Smith's voice came through filled with static. "Our shields are failing. These primitives are somehow bypassing our most advanced defenses." Walker keyed the comm. "Captain, your shields are designed to stop modern energy weapons. These raiders are using modified human tech from the war. Technology specifically designed to defeat advanced energy barriers." "Then what do you suggest, Lieutenant?" Smith's voice carried both anger and fear as his ship took another hit. "Let your ancient relic protect us." "Actually, yes." Walker straightened in his chair. "Thunder's Echo was built to fight ships using exactly this kind of technology." "AG is, what's our current power level?" "Main systems at 65% capacity. Weapons and defensive systems are operational. We can engage the enemy vessels." The Star Seeker's shields flickered again, sections beginning to fail. Escape pods launched from its lower decks as crew members abandoned the dying ship. The raiders pressed closer, clearly preparing to deliver the killing blow. "Captain Smith," Walker called out, "order your remaining crew to pull back behind us." "AGG is, power up all combat systems. Show them what Thunder's Echo can really do." The ancient warship's engines roared to life, maneuvering with surprising speed between the Star Seeker and the raiders. Emergency lights along its hull pulsed with building energy as weapon systems charge. The raiders hesitated, their formation breaking slightly. Through AEG's sensors, Walker detected sudden spikes of communication between the enemy ships. They recognized Thunder's Echo's design. "They're scanning us," AEGI has reported. "Enemy vessels are showing signs of confusion. They recognize our weapon signatures." A new voice cut through the comm channels. The raider commander, his tone filled with disbelief. That's impossible. That's a Titan-class human warship. They were all destroyed. Not quite all, Walker replied, allowing himself a small smile as Thunder's Echo's weapon systems locked onto all 5 raider vessels simultaneously. Would you like to test your stolen technology against the real thing? The ancient warship's hull thrummed with power as its original weapons, designed specifically to combat the very technology the raiders were using, prepared to fire. What the Alliance had dismissed as outdated was about to prove just how lethal primitive human engineering could be. Thunder's Echo came alive around Walker as HFY brought its ancient but powerful systems to full combat readiness. The bridge lighting shifted to a deep red, and holographic displays showed detailed targeting information for each raider vessel. All weapons systems online, HFY has announced. Hull integrity at 85%. Quantum fold drive responsive. Combat protocols fully activated. The raiders had paused their attack on the crippled Starseeker, clearly reassessing their situation. Their black ships hung in space like deadly shadows, their weapons still charged but no longer firing. Lieutenant Walker, HFY has said, I detect multiple targeting locks from the raider vessels. Walker nodded, settling deeper into the command chair. They're trying to figure out if we're as dangerous as they think we are. HFY is. Show them we are. Thunder's Echo's external lights blazed to full power, illuminating its battle-scarred hull. Weapon ports that the Alliance had dismissed as primitive projectile launchers opened, revealing sophisticated energy weapons that hummed with building power. Warning shot configured. HFY's reported. Targeting lead raider vessels forward section. Fire. A bright blue beam lanced out from Thunder's Echo. So fast it seemed to ignore the space between ships. It struck the lead raider's hull just above its bridge. Instead of bending away like the Alliance's weapons had done, this beam cut through the raider's stealth field like it wasn't there, leaving a glowing scar on the black hull. Direct hit, HFY confirmed. Enemy stealth systems had no effect on our targeting. The raiders' response was immediate. All 5 ships opened fire, their green energy beams converging on Thunder's Echo. Walker gripped his chair's armrests, expecting a heavy impact, but the old warship barely shuddered. Damage report. No significant damage, HFY has replied. Our original shield design was specifically created to counter these weapon types. The raiders' copied technology is less efficient than the original systems. Through the bridge windows, Walker saw the Starseeker's crew watching in amazement as Thunder's Echo shrugged off attacks that had nearly destroyed their advanced vessel. Captain Smith's voice came through the comm, his translator struggling to keep up with his excited clicks. How is this possible? Their weapons just bounce off your shields. This ship was built to fight enemies using exactly this kind of technology, Walker explained, as Thunder's Echo moved to protect the damaged Alliance vessel. HFY, what's the status of our main weapons? All systems charged to full power. We can target all 5 raiders simultaneously. The raider commander's voice cut through the comm again. All ships, switch to maximum power. Don't let that Relic. Target their engines, Walker ordered. Show them what primitive technology can do. Thunder's Echo's weapon systems released their full power. Multiple blue beams fired in perfect synchronization, each one finding its target with devastating accuracy. The raiders' stealth systems, which had made them nearly invincible against Alliance weapons, provided no protection against the very technology they had tried to copy. 2 raider ships lost engine power immediately, their stolen systems overloaded by weapons specifically designed to counter them. A third spun out of formation, its hull breached in multiple places. Enemy vessels attempting to retreat, HFY reported. Their remaining weapons pose no significant threat. Walker watched as the raiders struggled to maintain formation. Through HFY's sensors, he could see their crews frantically trying to restore their failing systems. What they had thought would be an easy victory against an Alliance ship had turned into a nightmare as they faced the full power of an original human warship. Lieutenant, HFY said, displaying new tactical data. The lead raider vessel is powering up its faster-than-light drive. They appear to be attempting to escape. Walker smiled slightly. Let them run. AEGS. Let them tell others what happened here. Let them spread the word about what happens when you underestimate primitive human engineering. Thunder's Echo stood guard over the damaged Starseeker, its ancient but powerful systems humming with energy, ready to fire again if needed. The ship that had been dismissed as a relic had proven itself to be something far more. A reminder that humanity's old weapons were still more than capable of roaring to life. The remaining raider ships regrouped, their black hulls gleaming against the starfield. Despite losing 2 of their companions, they weren't retreating. Instead, they formed a new attack pattern, one that AEGIS recognized immediately. Warning, the AI announced, enemy vessels are preparing a concentrated strike. This attack pattern was commonly used to overwhelm single targets during the First Interstellar War. Walker nodded, remembering his military history. They think they can overload our shields with a combined blast. AEGIS, show them why that's a bad idea. Thunder's Echo's engines flared to life. The massive warship moved with surprising grace, its quantum-fold drive allowing it to shift position instantly. The raider's initial barrage of green energy beams passed through empty space where the ship had been just moments before. Impossible. The raider commander's voice crackled over the comm. Nothing that size can move that fast. From the damaged Starseeker, Captain Smith and his crew watched in amazement. The human warship they had dismissed as primitive was performing maneuvers their most advanced ships couldn't match. "Lieutenant," Miller called out, his antennae twitching in excitement as he studied the readings, "your quantum fold drive. It's not just moving through space, is it?" "No," Walker replied, as Thunder's Echo executed another perfect dodge. "It's folding space itself. The ship isn't moving fast. It's bringing its destination closer." AEGIS displayed a tactical overlay showing the raiders' increasingly desperate attempts to target them. Each time they fired, Thunder's Echo simply wasn't there anymore, the space between points folding like paper to allow instant repositioning. Enemy shields weakening from continuous weapons discharge, AEGIS reported. They cannot maintain this level of fire much longer. Recommend demonstration of our main gun. Walker smiled. You mean the one they thought was a primitive projectile weapon? Do it. The front section of Thunder's Echo began to transform. What had looked like a simple cannon barrel split apart, revealing an intricate array of quantum field generators. Energy began to build, creating visible distortions in space around the weapon. "What is that?" Captain Smith demanded, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated clicks. "The Thunderbolt array," Walker explained. "It doesn't fire energy or projectiles. It fires a quantum-folded piece of space itself." The raiders recognized the weapon too late. As they tried to scatter, Thunder's Echo fired. A beam of distorted space lanced out, literally bending reality between the ships. When it struck the lead raider vessel, the black hull didn't just break. It folded in on itself, crushed by the weight of space-time. The remaining raiders turned to flee, their engines straining at maximum power. But Thunder's Echo wasn't finished. Its secondary weapons opened up, firing precisely targeted shots that disabled their engines without destroying the ships completely. Enemy vessels neutralized, AEGIS announced. 3 ships disabled, 1 destroyed, 1 escaped to carry warning to others. Tactical victory achieved with minimal loss of life. Walker stood from the command chair, watching as the disabled raider ships drifted helplessly. AEGIS, send to the Starseeker the shield frequencies needed to defend against the raiders' weapons. No point keeping that secret now that we've shown what we can do. Captain Smith's voice came through, subdued and respectful. "Lieutenant, I believe we owe you and your primitive warship an apology. We clearly had much to learn about human military technology." "The raiders made the same mistake you did, Captain," Walker replied. "They thought newer automatically meant better. They stole and copied our old technology without understanding its true capabilities. Thunder's echo may be old, but sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Through the bridge windows, Walker could see repair crews from the Starseeker already moving to secure the disabled raider vessels. The Alliance ship's crew worked with new respect in the shadow of Thunder's echo, whose hull still hummed with power, ready to unleash its thunder again if needed. AEGIS displayed a final tactical analysis, all systems performing at optimal levels. Combat efficiency exceeded original specifications. It seems, Lieutenant, that this Relic still has plenty of fight left in it. 3 days after the battle, Thunder's echo floated in formation with the repaired Starseeker. The Alliance ship's crew had worked around the clock to fix their damaged systems, now enhanced with the protective frequencies shared from the human warship's database. Walker stood on Thunder's echo's bridge, watching through the main viewport as Alliance engineers helped secure the captured raider vessels for transport. The black ships looked much less threatening now, their stolen technology rendered useless by the very weapons they had tried to copy. Lieutenant Walker, AEG is announced. Captain Smith is requesting permission to come aboard. Permission granted, Walker replied. Guide him to the bridge. Minutes later, the Alliance captain stepped onto Thunder's echo's bridge. All 4 of his eyes widened as he took in the mix of ancient and advanced technology surrounding him. The bridge hummed with power, holographic displays showing ship status and repair progress. I must admit, Lieutenant, Smith said, his translator conveying a tone of genuine respect, I never expected to be standing on a bridge like this. Our preliminary analysis of the raider vessels has been enlightening. Walker nodded. What did you find? They had been stealing and copying old human military technology for years, but they never understood the principles behind it. They saw our modern ships and assumed humanity had abandoned these systems because they were inferior. Smith's inner eyelids flickered with amusement. Quite the opposite, it seems. The Alliance made the same assumption, Walker pointed out, but without accusation. Yes, we did. Smith moved closer to one of the tactical displays. The Galactic Council has already called an emergency session. They want to review all their previous assessments of human technology, particularly after seeing the footage of your quantum fold drive in action. Speaking of the Council, Walker said, what will happen to Thunder's echo now? Smith's translator made an unusual sound that might have been a chuckle. Well, the museum curator was quite disappointed, but the Council has officially redesignated this vessel as an active warship. They've also requested, quite urgently, I might add, that humanity share some of their obsolete military technology. AEGS, Walker called out, what's your opinion on that? The A's response was immediate. As this situation has demonstrated, technology should be earned through understanding, not simply copied or given. I recommend a joint training and development program instead. My thoughts exactly, Walker agreed. Captain, tell the Council that we're willing to work together to help the Alliance understand our different approach to technology. But Thunder's echo isn't going to a museum, and we're not just handing over our old weapons. Agreed. Smith extended one of his upper limbs in a gesture of respect. The Council has also approved your appointment as Thunder's echo's official commander, with AEGIS's endorsement, of course. They feel having a human in command of this ship sends an important message. Walker touched the captain's chair, feeling the slight vibration of power running through the ship. And what message is that? That the Alliance needs to re-examine its assumptions. Smith moved toward the bridge exit but paused. Oh, and Lieutenant, the next time I find myself dismissing something as primitive, I'll remember how it felt watching this Relic save my ship and crew. After Smith departed, Walker sat in the command chair, looking at the displays around him. The ship's power signature was strong and steady, its ancient but powerful systems running perfectly after 2 centuries of sleep. AEG is, he said, what's our status? All systems optimal, Commander Walker. The quantum fold drive is fully calibrated, weapons are maintained, and shields are at full power. Thunder's echo is ready for whatever missions the Alliance may require. Walker smiled. The ship that had been laughed at as a relic had proven itself to be something far more. A bridge between humanity's past and the Alliance's future, a reminder that progress didn't always mean abandoning the old ways. "Very well," Walker said, settling into his role as commander. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity's primitive technology can really do." AGS, prepare for our first official patrol. Thunder's Echo's engines hummed to life, its quantum fold drive ready to bend space once more. The ship that had slept for 2 centuries was awake again. And this time, no one was laughing.